Welcome to the She Lives podcast, a show for women who want to live a happier life while tackling their goals along the way. Want to learn more about what we talked about today? Visit our website, shelivespodcast.com. Now here's your host, Michelle Hancock.
Hi, welcome back, everybody, and thank you so much for listening to the podcast. This has been a fun process, and the support that you have given me has made me so grateful for you. So thank you so much. If you like it, subscribe, rate, tell a friend so we can help the show grow and bring on more guests. Like today, we have Kristen Skiles, and I'm going to talk a little bit about her in a minute, but I want to tell you one of the reasons that I have her on the show. First of all, she's amazing. She is so full of positivity and she smiles all the time, just like me. And she is also a fellow stepmom. And many of you may not know, I am also a stepmom. My stepson is actually 18 years old, so I don't talk about him a whole lot like I used to. But I will say that being a stepmom has changed my life dramatically. And so I'm thankful that we're going to talk about blended families today, experience being a step parent. And even if you're not a step parent, I think this is going to be a good show for you because chances are you know somebody that is a stepmom or stepdad, and just how to support your friends and family members that are step parents. I think it's very, very good information to know. So let me move on with it and let's talk about Kristen. Let me tell you a little bit about Kristen. She is happily married with a 9-year-old stepdaughter, and she lives on the outskirts of Dallas, Texas. She has overcome insecurities about her husband's second wife, learned a million lessons the hard way as a step parent, don't we all, and been on a roller coaster ride with shared parenting. Kristen grew up as a stepchild with a strict and very involved stepdad and one long distance dad and a few different stepmoms over the years. Couple that with the fact that she was business partners and lived with her stepdaughter's mom for a season, and it's safe to say she offers a unique perspective. She also runs stepmomming.com, an online platform dedicated to providing comfort and guidance to overwhelmed stepmoms by giving them tools and inspiration they need to overcome insecurities and discontentment. She also works to show stepmoms around the world that stepmomming is what they do and not who they are, encouraging them to embrace their unique roles and truly love their lives. I love that. And thank you, Kristen, for being on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And I know my bio is a mouthful. Sorry about that.
Oh, no. I love that we have so much information about you, and we're going to learn even more. So don't let that scare you. One cool thing about Kristen, I have to say, is when we first met online, which I meet a lot of people online. I have a ton of online friends. It's amazing. You were actually on the Today Show a long time ago. Has that been a year and a half?
Almost a year. Yeah, it was last April.
That has to be an amazing experience. How did that come about? I'm just curious.
So, my content manager at the time was posting a lot in the Today Parenting forum, and they wanted to do a whole segment on stepmoms for Mother's Day. And so, because we were posting all of that content, they reached out to us and just said, "Is there any way you're going to be in New York around this time?" And I was like, "Well, I can be." So my husband and I flew up there, called it an anniversary trip, and we were, it was a segment on the Today Show. It was their online digital series, and there were 3 different videos with a lot of really cool experts in the field. It was a lot of fun.
That sounds like an amazing experience, and I'll grab that video and put it on our show notes so everybody else can see what you did on the Today Show. How exciting. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mentioned a lot already, but you actually started your blog with the ex-wife. I mean, when I heard that, I was floored, but I love your attitude about it. Can you share that experience with our listeners?
Yeah, I can. So it's kind of a weird story. I'll try to cut it as short as I can. But background, we weren't friends at the time. We weren't even like really cordial in this shared parenting space. My husband and I had been surprised being served paperwork to modify our agreement, and things were just tense, and there wasn't trust, there wasn't respect, just a weird place for us. So we're in the middle of all that, and she starts a blog, a mom blog. And it was this weird, like, announcement for us. But I didn't know anything about blogging. I really thought it was just an online journal, like, here's what I did today. And I obviously couldn't have been more wrong, but that's what I pictured in my mind. So my husband and his ex ended up talking through the agreement, what changes she wanted, were there changes he wanted, came to a new agreement, which kind of developed a friendship now post divorce. And in that time, she started texting me more as like a friend, maybe a confidant a little bit, but it was still, we still weren't friends at that point. I have to make sure that's really clear, because when she started texting me about her blog, I was like, well, I don't know blog, but I know business. I had just gotten my MBA. So I gave her advice from a business perspective. And then by the end of the day, we were business partners, which is so bizarre because we were not friends. We had just gone through this weird season, but it was just this crazy development and ended up being the very best thing for our relationship, because we blogged about her life as a divorced mom. We blogged about my life as a stepmom, and then how those two come together. And like, I could see her perspective better. She could see my perspective better. And it was a wild ride. It was 11 months before she ended up pursuing another creative endeavor, but it was incredible for us.
Wow, that is amazing. I'd imagine the communication on both ends had to be really good. And then did you ever read something that she posted or vice versa that hurt each other's feelings? Were you guys open about your feelings?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And there were definitely pieces that we each took down of each other's, because we had a rule: if you're uncomfortable with it, it doesn't post. And that was just the guideline. Like, we would write what was on our hearts, and then the other got to edit it. And if it was like, well, I understand that's your story, but that's not my story, then it would come down. And that happened a couple times for each of us, not trying to censor the narrative, but just to be respectful to
Yeah.
your co-parent. And I have that rule today. If my husband, if his ex, if my stepdaughter, if somebody's uncomfortable with it, it comes down immediately, no questions asked.
Ooh, that's a good point. I will say when I started blogging, there were times I would blog about my stepson, and sometimes the ex-wife, was not comfortable, and we had the same rules. And eventually, he grew up, and he didn't want to be on the blog as much. So that is important. I think a good rule for blended families to have is to have respect for one another when it comes to privacy, and even from the child's perspective. I mean, even my kids, Reese and Drew. I mean, Reese is getting old enough now. She's like, "No, mom, I don't want another picture. Oh my god!" But it's getting to that age. It's crazy. But I love that you guys were open to that. It's like a therapy session for you guys that you shared for the whole world. So,
Exactly.
wow. I mean, I'm sure you helped so many stepmoms, because I know there's times when I Googled a lot of things, and there's not a whole lot of step parenting blogs out there. Can you talk about your community, and have you had a good reception to it?
Yeah, it's been incredible. So there aren't a ton of resources. There's more resources today than there were 3 years ago whenever we started on this, but there's still not a ton of content out there. And then you'll also get like competing sides of it. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to kind of filter through that. But I found a ton of stepmoms who were just like, we just need help. And there's so much comfort in knowing that I'm not alone. So, in a lot of ways, I just try to say, here's our struggle, here's what we're going through, and then here's what I've done to come out on the other side happier and more peaceful. I don't claim to have all the answers, but it's helpful for people to know that they're not alone in their thoughts or their struggles or their insecurities. And that's what I can provide in this space.
I love that. Do you have any advice for someone? You grew up, you said you had experience with your step parents, a few stepmoms. do you have experience for those that are going to become a step parent that maybe don't have any experience with that, or even maybe they do? I guess my question is, what are some harsh realities of shared parenting that they need to be aware of, and then how can they find joy in step parenting?
Yeah, so you mentioned that I had like the track record. I should have known exactly what I was doing and how it was all going to play out. And I got a gigantic slap across the face because the reality is just completely different than what I expected. I truly had no idea what being a stepmom would be like. So just know that we're all starting with a clean slate. None of us have any idea what we're doing. We're just doing the best we can. But yeah, there's going to be some harsh realities. First is that you have to understand that the ex isn't going to parent like you, and there's no way that you can control her or change her. No matter how many experts are going to say that your way is right, no matter how much your stepkids may say they want it to be another way, you can't control or change her. So you have to change yourself. There's a quote by Maya Angelou. It says, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. And that's like my stepmom mantra. That's how I live my life is there's something I don't like. All right, what can I do to change it? Okay, I can't change it. What can I do to change my attitude? And that's been the most dramatic shift for me. So just keep that in mind. You also have to remember that she didn't choose you. Your partner chose you. Your stepkid had probably a little bit of buy in on that decision. I know my husband had talked to my stepdaughter before he asked me to marry him and made sure that we were all on the same page. Um, but if she chooses not to communicate with you or that makes her uncomfortable or whatever, you have to just kind of respect that because she's not required to co parent with you. So you need to be in a strong partnership with your partner, your chosen person, but she doesn't have to choose you and communicate with you, which can be a really tough adjustment. And then I think the final harsh reality of shared parenting is to just recognize that you may never be that family that's on the sidelines of the soccer field with the matching shirts that say like mom, bonus mom, dad, stepdad, on Facebook. But that doesn't have to be the goal. You can still raise successful stepkids. You can still have a very happy partnership and be a happy stepmom without that being the standard. And that was a really harsh reality for me because I thought that's what success looked like. I thought I had to be that person. And we have pictures of the six of us. Like, I'm not saying that I don't have a really happy life because I do, and I have reached some of those things. But just recognizing that you can have peace even when your life doesn't look like that was a really harsh reality for me.
Ooh, I love that. And I think it doesn't help either whenever we have celebrities that are all over social media with their modern day families and they all look happy. And, you've got the bonus moms, you've got all the kids, and they just blended really well. But I'm sure they face things that we're not privy to as well. So I love that piece of advice about perfection and what you think a happy blended family looks like. Is Well, let me ask you, when you became a stepmom, were people supportive? Were your friends and family on board with that, or did you ever get shamed for being a stepmom? I know one time when my poor sweet grandma, she means well, but she did say, "Oh, you're going to have a ready-made family," and that kind of hurt my feelings at the time. I was like, "Thanks, grandma." I couldn't tell if that was a compliment or a shame. So, have you personally been shamed for being a stepmom? Is it a thing? What can our friends do that aren't stepmoms? How can they support us? I guess is my question.
Oh my gosh, now that you say that, I clearly remember this time with my mom, my great grandma, um, when I first introduced her to my husband and stepdaughter. And she said, yeah, I was worried that you were getting too old and that you were going to have to find somebody who was divorced.
Oh
And
no, oh no.
I mean, I was like 24. I was
Yeah,
like, I'm
that's
not
not
old.
old. That's not old.
But it was like this shameful thing. So now that you say that, I'm remembering this. So I had some of that feedback. I think you're always going to have some of that feedback when you're choosing a path that's out of the norm. But my mom and my sister and the people who were closest to me, they were just supportive because I was finally dating a guy that I deserved because they could see how great he was as opposed to like maybe some of the exes that I had chosen. And so they were always very transparent, like, this is going to be tough. My mom divorced my dad when I was 2. She knows this is going to be tough, but they were very supportive in that respect. But just stepmom shaming is a real thing. And it's like kind of this double standard because we're criticized if we're too involved because now we're overstepping. But if you step back and let the parents do the parenting, well, then you're just uninterested and then you're fitting that evil stepmom stereotype. So it's like we can't win. And so no matter what we do, somebody's criticizing us. So, really, what our friends and family can do to help us is to help share the positive examples of being a stepmom because we're constantly combating that Disney stereotype of the evil stepmom. And I'm not an evil stepmom. You're not an evil stepmom. Most stepmoms aren't evil. So helping others to see that we're doing the very best we can. Oftentimes there's not a right answer. If we're too involved, then it's stepping on toes. If we're not involved enough, it's stepping on toes. So just encouraging any stepmom you know and just giving her kind of a pat on the back goes such a long way.
Oh, I like that. Now, this podcast is about how to live a happier life through different people's perspectives and tips. We've talked a lot of the negative aspects and the hardships of being a stepmom, but can you share the joys of stepmotherhood and what it's taught you as a person?
So I was actually listening to another interview yesterday with a couple stepmom experts, and they said there's no better growth experience that anybody can go through than to be a stepmom. So for sure, I have grown so much. And for me, I didn't know that I could love somebody as much as I love my husband and my stepdaughter. I didn't know I could love somebody else's child as much as I love my stepdaughter. The bond that we have, the relationship that I have with her mom, and how we can be friends and we can all come together. I get so much joy out of it. I have hard days for sure. I'm I'm never going to not have hard days. Every mom has hard days, but every day I go to bed happy because I'm married to my life partner. I have an incredible stepdaughter, and getting to watch her grow is the greatest joy. So, for anybody who's struggling, I'm encouraging you to get back to your partner because you're a stepmom because he had or she had kids before you, and that's okay. But you chose that person not because they had kids, but you chose that person because of who they are. And get back to that. What makes you love your partner? Because that's what's going to fill you with joy first. And then the rest is going to help fall in line after that. But you have to focus on that relationship. That's what's going to always bring you the most joy.
I absolutely agree with that. I'll be transparent here. When my husband and I were first dating, it was great. And then we got engaged. And then there was a lot of, drama with that. And just trying to blend our families was difficult. And it was hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to remind myself several times to get back to the basics of why I chose. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Being a stepmom at first was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. However, like you mentioned before, um, it was such a great experience for me. I learned patience. I learned joy and how to love somebody that isn't my own flesh and blood, have you will. And Chad and I believe we got closer through that experience, but I won't lie. There were some days I was like, what am I even thinking? Why am I doing this? Like, this is crazy. But I just want to tell anybody that's listening, keep trying because here we are, goodness, 10 years later. And I mean, we still have our moments, but for the most part, it's been a great experience and we all respect one another. And my stepson and I have a great relationship. So I definitely say, hang in there, stepmoms, and find a community like stepmomming.com. So let's shift gears for a bit and talk about business. It's one of my favorite topics, entrepreneurship. And you have been doing this, you've been an entrepreneur for how many years now?
I started in this business 3 years ago, but I started my first business, gosh, back in 2012.
Okay, very
So
cool.
8 years. Holy cow.
8 years. Okay. So, well, can you talk about your experience as an entrepreneur, and what do you think that your friends admire the most about you when it comes to business?
So today I run two businesses, obviously stepmomming, and my other business is a retail store. You actually came out and saw it a couple weeks ago.
I
It's
did.
a bamboo home goods store, my first time ever with brick and mortar. So that's a whole new adventure. But it's called Care Aloha here in Dallas. And I run both of those businesses kind of behind the scenes. One of the things that I look at for business, I was taking a business class last year because I just love learning. And you told me earlier your husband said you have a technology addiction. Like I have
Yes.
one of those with classes. I always want to take the next class. So I was taking this business class, and it was all about what differentiates you, what sets you apart from the competition, what's going to make you unique. And it challenged us to go to our friends and family and ask, like, what do you love about me? What is my biggest strength? And what I kept hearing over and over again is that I'm passionate. So I've tried to build that into my business model. Why am I passionate about helping stepmoms? And it's funny because, like, when I do lead with that, when I lead with my passion for helping stepmoms, you can see the results in the business. Like, my heart is transparent, it draws people in, and then the business results just naturally follow. So that's my favorite part of running a business, is getting to do the part of it that I'm good at. Nobody wants to do the things they don't enjoy. So when I can come in and I can say, here's what I'm good at, here's what I bring to the table, and you're going to have business results that naturally flow, that just makes it so enjoyable to run your own business.
I agree. And I think if you lead with your passion, that's going to that's going to get you through those long hours when you're first starting out, when you're not really making a lot of money or maybe no money.
Right.
I think having a passion for it is going to help you avoid burnout. So I would definitely tell some budding entrepreneurs to find what you're good at and passionate about and go with that. And then, do you delegate things that maybe you're not so great at? Do you have a team of individuals?
I do. Yeah, I've got a social media manager who posts all of our stuff on Facebook and Pinterest, and she handles all of that because coming up with captions is not my jam. Like, that's just not something I enjoy. It's not something I'm particularly good at. And she is bomb at it. She's so great about it. So she handles that. And then I have another lady on my team who's my community manager. She is so great at building community and making sure every single person feels special and feels heard. And she runs our private Facebook group that's only for stepmoms. And it's just truly been incredible to see the community she's built up that allows me to come in, share my passion when I want, but I'm not as good at the day to day as she is. So just finding those individuals to do that for me has made a massive difference on my team.
Ooh, that's great. How did you find those people? Is it people you know that you trained, or just curious how you find the right people for the right jobs?
So they actually volunteered to moderate the Facebook group with me. So we have this, like I said, this private community. It's up to over 13,000 stepmoms now. And I just couldn't possibly handle the hundreds of requests I got every day and making sure posts are following the rules. So I just recruited people who wanted to volunteer to help. And we have an entire moderator team that volunteers. But I pulled from those people who were just kind of going above and beyond and clearly invested in the mission and wanting to help stepmoms. And I could see they had those unique talents. And so I reached out and was just like, hey, are you interested? If you're not, no hard feelings. I love what you're doing. I'm not saying you're not doing enough, but if you want a paid position, I'm offering it. And it was great because they already knew my business, they knew my customers, and we could just kind of combine it all with that baseline.
That is genius. I think that if there's any women out there that want to work from home, just get in a Facebook group and start start doing really awesome work, and one of us will hire you. That's
Yeah.
genius because there's not enough hours in the day. And let's talk about being present for a minute because I've seen that as a theme in all of our shows. We're tied to our phones a lot. We're tied to social, especially with an online business. How do you stop that madness and be present with you? Because I would imagine you get your stepdaughter made. I don't know what your schedule is, but it's not 24/7. So how do you shut that off?
It's so hard, Michelle. Oh my gosh. Like, it's something I struggle with daily. And I, I'll be in the middle. My biggest thing is an Instagram caption. It takes me forever to write an Instagram caption. And my husband will be trying to tell me a story. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not done yet. And he's like, okay, can I tell you now? I'm like, okay, but I'm almost done. And my stepdaughter wants to tell me about her day. So she gets off the school bus at our house, usually 3 days a week. It depends on the week, but usually 3 days. And I try to always be done with work for 30 minutes at 3:30 when she gets off the bus. And she gets me for 30 minutes uninterrupted. My phone goes in another room so that I can give her that time. And then at night, after she's gone to bed, when my husband and I are watching TV or having our conversations of the day or whatever, I can put my phone away again and give him one on one time. Other than that, it's pretty much out. And I always put it away for dinner. That's definitely a rule. But between there, if I have to be on my phone or I have to be on my laptop, my family just kind of understands that aside from special occasions, I'm probably going to be on my phone some.
Good. I love that you have a routine. And I would imagine you get a lot of calls from your business, your brick and mortar business, or hopefully you don't, but you
I
never know.
do. Yeah.
You might have got a call after my family ransacked your store.
You did it. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
kidding. There's some kids in your store acting crazy. Oh, that's
No.
Michelle's kids. But I love that. I love you've got a system going on. You recognize that you do need to be more present. I'm in the same boat. I think a lot of people are. So don't feel bad about that. Let's talk about travel because I love seeing you guys travel as a family, and sometimes you travel one on one with your husband. How do you make travel such a priority for your family? You've got a lot going on, so how do you put that on the top of your forefront?
Okay, I love traveling. I got it from my mama. Like, she loves to travel. She instilled that love in us. And I use any excuse I can get to travel, which is probably why we do it so much. So I do schedule time with just me and my husband to go off and travel, but we also plan vacations as a family of three as much as we can. And I do that because when I was growing up, I have these just distinct, beautiful memories of traveling with my family. And it was the time when everybody did put their phones away or they weren't on the computer. My stepdad wasn't at work, whatever it was, like we were all together. We were intentionally spending time with one another. And I'm a quality time love languages person. That's a whole nother podcast. But that's what I love is being with the people I love. That's what makes me feel loved in return. So I want to give those memories to my kids. I'm lucky to find a partner who loves to travel. So we just look for opportunities. Um, he's going for a work conference the week before our anniversary. So I was like, we'll just extend it and we'll both go to Florida and hang out for our anniversary after that. So we just find little pockets of time that we can go away. Because when you share custody, you don't get to take 3 weeks at a time to go to Italy. So we just do a few days in Florida, a few days. We went to Disneyland last year to make those things happen.
That's smart. You do have to plan a bit when it comes to blended families, especially during the holidays, but that's a whole nother podcast episode.
We'll get back
Uh,
together in November.
yeah. Well, that's great. So let me ask you, what does being successful mean to you? I know that's a loaded question. I ask everybody that, but I love the answers. So let's hear
It,
yours.
it's totally loaded and I think it changes. But today, what success means to me is going to bed proud of myself and my contribution to my family every single day. And part of that is a financial contribution. In order to feel successful, I need to have contributed to my household. But it's also about teaching my stepdaughter and my hopeful future kids, making sure they feel loved and they feel empowered, and that I'm giving them the tools that they need in the future. And loving my husband, being a good wife is something that makes me feel successful.
Oh, I love that. And it's a lot of work to do all those things, but it doesn't always feel like work when it brings you joy. So I love that you shared your stories today. I know that talking about your experience as a stepmom isn't always the easiest thing to talk about, but you are doing it with grace and vulnerability. So I appreciate you taking time to come on and share your story. Where can we follow you to find out what you're up to and see what else you got going on for the stepmom community?
Yes, please. I'm at stepmomming, STEPMOMMING, on Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook. We also have the private Facebook group Stepmomming Ain't Easy. And then you can find me on Twitter, Stepmomming Blog. Not totally active on Twitter, but I'm there.
Same here. Twitter is one of those things I need to be on more, but goodness, there's just so much. And now they're telling us we need to be on TikTok. I need to hire another person. So, well, thank you again. And guys, check out, she also has a self-care challenge. It's free. It's on her blog. It's stepmomming.com. And if you guys have any questions for her, just come on over to our Facebook group, which is She Lives Podcast, and she'll be over there to answer any more questions that you may have. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Make sure to visit our website, shelivespodcast.com, where you can subscribe to never miss a show. Find us on social at She Lives Podcast. While you're at it, if you loved today's episode, please take a moment to share with your friends and family and leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Talk soon.